12 days ago, Jesus was born in a humble something, a cave, a stable, a hut, a sheep pen. Today, 12 days later, a 12-year-old adolescent was in the temple sitting with the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. When I read this gospel, I fought the inclination to slap my Bible to the table, leap to my feet, and shout, "Shazam!" In just the blink of an eye, an infant miracle to a rabbi in the making, with a great gaping hole in between. God had split off a piece of his own being, made that piece fully human, and delivered that human in baby form through a miraculous virgin birth. Why? Because God finally recognized his failure in reining in his people. Floods, famine, disease, murder, judgment, laws, and more laws did not do much to draw people into a loving obedience, a respectful trust, and a yearning for a loving relationship. God created the heavens and the earth and all that was in it, but he never created a child. Think about it. The first humans, Adam and Eve, were well past puberty and were in adult trouble from the get-go. God may have decided that there was something missing in this approach to understanding humans, and that something was childhood. I suppose we might think that Jesus was not what we might call a usual child, being God and all. Perhaps he was a bit withdrawn so that he might more effectively observe people around him. Perhaps he was a bit more studious so that he might learn what his God side had tried to teach his people. Perhaps he was a bit less emotionally demonstrative, as this was something God had to learn from human experience. A childhood in 1st century BCE Palestine, particularly within a Jewish family, would likely be centered around learning the Torah and observing strict religious practices, with boys receiving formal education in the synagogue from a young age, while girls learned primarily at home from their mothers, focusing on domestic skills and religious teachings. Life would be simple, often physically demanding, and heavily influenced by the social and political climate of the Roman-occupied region. It is traditionally thought that Jesus was raised in his family's carpentry shop, learning the trade from his earthly father. The Bible gives us the infant birth, the flight into Egypt, a presumed annual outing to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover in the temple, and then the 12-year-old amazing his elders and terrifying his parents. In those 12 years, what did God learn from his earthly parents? He learned to walk and talk in order to understand that some of his children could not. The crippled and mute who may have been rejected from families and society as being damaged, unproductive, or even possessed by demons. He learned language, to listen and to speak so that he might communicate with fellow humans, hear and question the human world and the challenges of living in it, and to prepare to teach a new way of life for all people, Jews, Gentiles, and pagans. He learned how to get along with his family. As the oldest of 4 brothers and an undetermined number of sisters, even God must have had moments of dissension over chores, possessions, position, and privilege. Surely in 12 years, Jesus must have delivered and received a sibling thump or two. He learned responsibility. Just because he was a gift does not mean that he could presume special privilege. He learned to support his family, to live within community, to respect his elders, to learn his religious lessons, and about life in general. He learned obedience and discipline. Both are necessary characteristics to be a good follower and a good leader. For one cannot be an effective leader without first learning how to follow. He learned compassion and empathy. Many of his children, created out of love, did not have it. With lives consisting of birth and then death, with nothing between but a great gaping hole of loneliness, poverty, illness, and despair. He learned how to have faith in his earthly life, hope in his return to heavenly wholeness, and non-judgmental charity when relating to his fragile earthly companions. Above all, he learned what it was to give and receive love, specific as the love of committed earthly parents who raised Jesus within the framework of faith, family, and community, who demonstrated their love through words, through hugs, perhaps even through eye-rolling sighs of tolerance, and a whole-encompassing love for his creation and the joy of mankind. And then at the age of 12, he taught his parents a difficult lesson: letting go. Whether you are a parent or not, haven't we each had a moment of almost mystical clarity where a child whom we have thought known is revealed to us in a moment of future revelation? Moments when we say, only yesterday, this child before me was temper-stopping, snaggletooth with disheveled hair and scabby knees. Moments when a new maturity is revealed, when we realize that the hands holding child to adult are slipping apart to form a new hold, a different relationship. Through his decision to leave his family, to sit amongst the elders in the temple, to listen and to question, to speak with wisdom and authority, to present himself with a new maturity, Jesus reminded his earthly parents of who he was and whose he was. I imagine Mary and Joseph looking at each other in bafflement and asking, "Where is our child? Who is this Jesus?" Graham Greene is quoted as saying, "There's always one moment in childhood when the door opens and lets the future in." We know nothing of Jesus between the age of 12 and his immersion into ministry at about age 30. Perhaps we are not meant to know. At age 12, the door opened, the child departed, and the future began. Amen.